are live.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our April 23rd, 2025 meeting of the Commission on Ethics and Lobbying in Government. Our executive directors, Mr. Curley, to announce the forum.
Thank you, Chair Austin. This meeting is being held pursuant to notice and in accordance with provisions of the state's open meeting law, Article 7 of the Public Officers Law and Executive Law, Section 94. Both the conference room we're using in the Commission's offices in Albany at 540 Broadway and the meeting room that we're using in the Commission's offices at 25 Beaver Street in Manhattan are open to the public during public session. Public session is also being live streamed. The link can be found on the Commission's website at ethics.ny.gov. And we do have a quorum of commissioners present here in the Albany office. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we move forward on our agenda. Item 2 on the agenda, approval of minutes from our public session on March 19, 2025. I'm sure everybody's had the chance to review it. Are there any amendments, corrections, or modifications?
I was just going to say, we received one suggestion that on page 11 of the open session minutes, the word de minimis, or the phrase de minimis, be corrected, not to use the spelling that's in the statute that's quoted, but rather the one that's used in Latin. So de minimis with no U.
Okay. Commissioner Edwards.
On page 16, this discussion around the rules of order. Am I correct? Wasn't that supposed to go back? Wasn't that out of the administrative committee? And should it have gone back to the committee for discussion?
No, I think it was adjourned to this meeting for us to consider. It's a resolution that's on our agenda.
I thought that we were discussing that at the admin committee.
I think we had, but I think it's raised in the general meeting because it was something that Commissioner Bloomberg had sent out. So we said we would give everybody an opportunity to review it in time for this meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
We had not seen it by committee.
Right. Should we have?
Should you have?
Should the admin committee have, since it was in our committee for discussion? Wasn't it assigned to our committee?
It had been.
Right. So
It
then,
had been, but then there was the report that came out, the motion that came out. I thought that was what was on the agenda last time. And now it was tabled and now we're bringing it up
I
again.
think we're going to bring it back to
the full body.
for the full body.
Okay.
Are there any other comments?
Just a minor correction on page 4. The third paragraph is pretty much in the middle of the page. You noted that the small number of bi-monthly reports filed in February reflects the fact that February is not a bi-monthly reporting month. You can just remove a cause.
Are there any other comments, amendments, modifications? Hearing that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
So
Commissioner Karas, second. Commissioner Groenewegen. All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. We move on now to our staff report.
Thank you. The monthly operations report for March 2025 is under tab B of the agenda, as we have been doing for quite some time now. In addition to relevant activity in the most recently closed month, which is March, column 1. Each report also includes comparisons to activity for the prior month, comparable monthly and year-to-date periods in 2024, and the current year-to-date figure or total in column 4. First page of the report is the investigations report in March The commission received 25 tips, complaints, and referrals. Commissioners received notice of those in the weekly notifications, and one open matter was closed. And a new investigation was opened. We received notice of those as well. Consequently, the ending pending number is 204, and the open matters total 55. So that's an net gain of 23 open and pending matters. Any questions? Staff is here to respond.
Okay. We on.
Page 2 of the operations report. The advice and guidance unit. Again, numbers were high, 127 guidance requests, a little bit lower than figure in February. Year-to-date total is 407, which is roughly 45% higher than the comparable period in 2024, which itself was a record period for the commission. So the trend continues to run high in guidance and advice requests that are coming and approval requests that are coming through the advice and guidance unit. As has been the case in the past, outside activity approval requests 40 and post-employment requests 35 made up a majority, but by no means all of the requests that came in the period. And the division continues to run quite well, responding to requests that have come into the commission promptly. Any questions? Erin or Michael, anything to add? Erin Lynch, our Deputy Director of Ethics, Michael Sand in New York.
No, nothing to add, Sandy.
We're muted.
Are we?
No, we can hear you. We can hear you. I heard my phone.
Okay, great.
Nothing to add, Sandy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I was going to say the division has a goal of turning around draft responses literally in a matter of days. So they're doing an excellent job keeping all of us on our toes. But the system is working very, very well. Doing great credit to the commission. Page 3, if there are no questions on that. Lobbying division. You'll see that March was a bi-monthly reporting period. So the number of bi-monthly reports received by the commission surged to over 5,600 in that period. The number of principal lobbyists and clients continues to rise. We're in the first quarter now of a new biennial period, and so the numbers will continue to grow. Registrations as well continue to come in, almost 1,800 new ones in March, bringing the total for the day to a very robust number, 11,491. And staff is being kept quite busy both generating inquiries to filers and in receiving requests for advice, guidance, and assistance. Almost 3,000 in the month of March, and the total is now over 10,000 for the first quarter of the year. I should add that the division has also been putting out, I would say, more timely reporting. So the 2024 annual preliminary numbers were made public a few weeks ago. Good deal of attention focused on them, number of inquiries coming in. And we have now just issued our first bi-monthly update, which is providing the public, the press, interested parties, and government officials with information on the bi-monthly reports that I just mentioned that were filed in March, covering the period of January and February. Good deal of activity, and it looks as if we're probably on track to equal or exceed the dollar spend and the number of reports that were received last year, 2024, which was a record year for lobbying spend, and apparently for lobbying activity based on that. So we're moving along. And the plan is to continue to issue those bi-monthly reports every 2 months. virtually on a real-time basis, not quite. And of course, it only reflects data that's already in the system. So anyone who's interested in observing, monitoring, engaging lobbying activity can go into the lobbying application itself through the public search query and do individual searches. But what we're doing is collecting that information in a somewhat more, we think, accessible way for those who don't have the time or the skills to do more in-depth searching of the data. We expect a positive response. Carol Quinn, our Director of Lobbying, anything to add?
No, that covers it. That's good.
Emily, anything in terms of sponsor receipts? Any questions? Thank you. Moving on.
I may just thank you, Emily, for getting out that press release as quickly as you did, so that everybody knows exactly how it's working with the lobbying filings. Thank you.
Page 4, financial disclosure statements. Big filing day is coming up, May 15th. Folks are getting their notices, which were issued on April 15th by the division, by the unit, to the filers. In anticipation of that, numbers are starting to tick up. There's a correction in the very first box, monthly count for March. It's not 1,116. It was actually 114 that were received. March is early. We don't accept filings before April, as some early filers were informed. You can't get into the system before April, but there's still catch-ups taking place. And of course, we have individuals who came into the workforce in the latter part of 2024. We're still getting their filings in. There are 32 delinquencies outstanding at this point. That reflects a reduction of about 7 the prior month's report. There were no failure to file notices issued in March, and there are none left to issue for the 2023 financial disclosure set for date in 2024. It's Melinda. We have Melinda on. Deputy Director of Financial Disclosure Statements. Melinda, anything to update? Melinda Funk?
I don't see her name.
Good morning. We have wrapped up the 2023 filing season. We have no more failed to files outstanding, and we had no more notices of delinquency to issue from the last round of failed to files that we did issue. We issued a total of 241 notices of delinquency for the 2023 filing, and as of today, we have 64 remaining. Staff is still trying to do outreach to gain compliance with the remaining before we move forward with the next steps of enforcement. As Sandy has said, we have started the 2024 financial disclosure season with the notices going out on April 15th. As of today, we have received almost 8,000 filings, with the first day receiving almost 3,000 filings when the filings were issued on the 15th. So we are receiving a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, and people are going in and taking care of the filings right away.
Melinda, thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Harris.
A comment, in the minutes, I said that I would find the provision of the city administrative code for the late fees for financial disclosure. In response to Claudia's question, would a late fee lessen the burden on the staff for all the failure to file notices? It's actually pretty rigorous. In 12-110 of the city's administrative code, you have a 1-week grace period after which there is a late fee of between $250 and a maximum of $10,000, with a set of factors to consider, including how many times you filed late in the past. And failure to pay the late fee then would result in an intentional violation with an even larger fine. So they use a pretty big hammer. And I remember at the city level, everybody knew you had a week's grace period and then you were going to get a fine. So maybe something for the legislative committee for us to consider.
Thank you. Thank you. That certainly would get the attention.
It got, yeah, everyone knew, you know, you have a week and
No, absolutely. And I will say, Melinda and her team do a phenomenal job without the hammer of those kinds of penalties.
but I'm sure, like Claudia said, it's work.
It's not the work, it's not, right. It's not about staff, it's like minimizing reducing the work on them, the burden on them.
I mean, it would create an enforcement opportunity, let me call it that. And as long as we could use some of the proceeds of that to pay for that division, it would clearly be beneficial. But by and large, although there is a huge amount of effort that goes
Yeah, there
into
is.
bringing about compliance, the workforce, pretty good, ultimately, with some reduce in getting disclosure statements. But absolutely, that's something we should consider.
And the things that we discussed at our last meeting, and it's in the minutes, was the idea of somehow finding a way of de-incentivizing non-violent. We talked about various options, having it as a consideration if somebody fails to file, somebody fails to do their educational requirement, all of those things. It might be worthwhile, as long as it's going to the legislative committee anyway, that we also include that, which we discussed at the last meeting, in terms of coming up with a plan, if at all. Commissioner Groenberg.
Could I just suggest that before we refer it to committee, we ask staff to take a look at what has been pointed out to us about New York City and think through the practical implications of this, and then have something to share with the legislative committee before they discuss it?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's the two items then. The city code for late filing and the whole idea of de-incentivizing non-filing in the area of education and FDSs. That we left open at the last meeting. The other thing we left open, as long as we're talking about it, was the education portion with regard to how to avoid repetition, the same program every year to keep our audience interested.
I just want to say we do have two things on the agenda, like two bills out there already regarding penalties for late FDS filings and late lobbying, late training. So those two are out there already.
Well, those are in terms of the asking for an extension or excuse not to do it.
No, asking that the legislature put in, there are pending bills right now for us to have penalties for late filing and late training.
Lobbying ethics training.
Yes, lobbying training, yes. So those are out there already, and maybe we'll look into that.
Well, this was a bit more than that.
Yes, I get it. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, I'll put it in.
So if staff could look at that, that would be
Yes,
great.
yep.
Okay.
Staff absolutely has
Okay.
that on the staff agenda. Things to explore. Was there any other questions on financial disclosure statement? Thank you, Melinda. Training statistics on page 5. You'll see that our training unit conducted 12 trainings in March. Those are open to up to 400 individuals. Talk about that in a little bit more detail. Our unit trained over 2,400 members of the workforce in March. Over 1,800 individuals use the on-demand module that we have, either on the state learning management system or on separate learning management systems that some of the agencies and academic institutions have. This is a perhaps understated number. The number of individuals who received live, whether online or in person, training through their local agency, over 10,000. It's possible there is some undercounting in that based on the way the data is collected. Some agencies are reporting all of the individuals who received training in their agencies, whether they received it from the agency or from COLA. For just clean reporting purposes, I've just backed out the number of COLA trainings from the total number reported. But not every agency is over-reporting that way, so there may be an undercount. In any event, at least 14,575 individuals received ethics training, workforce ethics training in March. That's a preliminary number, as you've seen for other months. Data comes in not as promptly as we would like. Agencies have lots of challenges in all the things they have to do, not only in providing training and many other guidance functions they have, but also entering the data. And we're working on streamlining that process. We expect that number to grow. But based on that, just using those numbers against our totals, which may also be undercounts through the end of 2024, the numbers indicate that over 385,000 individuals have now been trained. There may be some duplication in that. There may be undercounting again in that. It means we're on the way to achieving the goal of 2 trainings for every individual in the workforce by the end of this year. Assuming a workforce of about 330,000 in the executive branch, not including the legislature, they're doing their own training. We need to get to 660,000, something in that range. There's some amping up of the effort that needs to take place. And we have plans we're looking at implementing. Some will depend on the budget appropriation that we get. The budget is released by the state. Hopefully, not this week, next week, we'll have greater clarity on that. But there needs to be greater utilization of the on-demand program. We have completed a procurement with, as I mentioned last time, with the division of Rockefeller College to convert our current on-demand modules so that it can be used on a greater number of platforms with all the features that it currently has. So if you complete a section, you have to answer questions until you answer them correctly. You get prompts. You can't go on to the next section. But we're going to retain those features, but we're going to make the module available so that it can be web hosted by agencies. And conceivably by an expense associated with web hosting, we have to bring that cost down across the board. But we need greater utilization of that. We're planning to have better utilization of our trainings under subscription, under enrollment is a problem. Or even when we have max enrollment, not everybody shows up. We have to figure out how to more strictly enforce those requirements. And it's not a question of fines. It's a question really of making sure everybody's doing what they need to do to get involved. But it's an ambitious target. It's an ambitious target. We're going to have to see how all these pieces fit into place. We also have to make adaptations to language accessibility for physical challenges that individuals have. So there are a lot of things that are part of the procurement we're doing. There's some additional procurements we'll have to do this year, and those will be impacted by budget. A lot of work to be done to get everybody trained. But we're moving in the right direction. We're moving in the right direction. Any questions? There's audit and review. The unit is growing. We're recruiting now for an additional auditor in the group. There have been some organizational, internal changes that have been made over the past year that have been quite effective. The group is working extremely well. The targeted reviews, since last time, are essentially done. There's some few trailing in. The attention now on FDS is the random review process. And of course, the audits of lobby filings is ongoing. 74 more of those were completed in March, 150 random reviews. You see a substantial number of letters requesting additional information went out in March. And again, the target continues to be in an annual period to complete at least 2,000 total lobbying audits, financial disclosure, targeted and random reviews. For 2024, the number was somewhat exceeded, and with an additional auditor, again, the budget will impact that. We think we're well on the way. The unit is working extremely well. And efficiently. Deserves a lot of credit for the work they've done. Some of which, we talked about it before, was somewhat slowed by the installation of the new auditing software, but now it's in place. I'm hearing that it's working extremely well, and as mentioned before, the unit is now expanding that software, Teammate Plus, so that it can be used by the FDS reviewers as well as by the auditors. It should improve their workflow and the tools that are available. Any questions? Page 7. Public Information Division, the Communications Division, which among many other things, handled FOIL requests, 14 more came in. In March, there were 11 responses, 418 pages of material produced. There are 18 matters pending, FOIL responses pending, all of them within timeframes. I'll defer to Emily on analyzing the social media analytics, but to me, they look quite impressive. And the fact that we're at over 100,000 website users, to me, is an extremely impressive figure. Emily, anything to add to that? Emily DeSantis, our director of the division.
Yeah, sure. On the website too, we're working with the ethics and lobbying teams to make their pages more user-friendly and more easily accessible to find information. So that's an ongoing project. It's something that's going to happen overnight because it's taking restructuring, but we're working on that. And then with social media, it's pretty steady for what we do for month to month. We make sure we have at least 1 or 2 posts a day during the week to keep people engaged. And then the only other thing I just wanted to mention is that we have scheduled our public hearing for September 25th from 10 to 1. And it's going to be held at the New York City Bar. As usual, we'll open the Albany office as well if people want to come in here and testify here, or we'll allow them the option to virtually. So we'll get a save the date out in the next month or so about that, so folks are aware. So thank you to all the commissioners for getting back to me on your availability, and you should have the meeting notice in your meetings.
You did mention Emily, but it's important. Emily's group is responsible for getting out the accelerated lobbying information reports that we're putting out. That's an additional task. It's going to occupy a fair amount of their time, but as I said before, it's very well received. We'll be doing that every 2 months, and then when the semi-annual reports come in, the client semi-annuals, there'll be an augmentation of the report, so that'll happen twice a year as well. So it's a good deal of data, as well as all the data that the lobbying division is moving on to the OpenNY platform. It's a vast database.
Yeah, and we are seeing it generate inquiries too. Like a story might not be written right on it. We're seeing, we saw this number in the report. Can we get more information on that? Or background was doing 2 reporters yesterday. So it is generating more interest in our lobbying data, which is great.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we have fiscal year budget.
Everyone should have seen the handout this morning. It's a maybe together to close out fiscal year 24-25. As we were predicting, the end of the year with the surplus entirely because the hiring lag. Now in an awkward position where we are recruiting for all the remaining open positions we have. I'm a little bit ahead of myself on this, but we want to fill those positions. We now have the opportunity now that the Court of Appeals has affirmed our authority to move forward with all of our authorities. We've received huge numbers of applications for positions. So everybody's busy reviewing resumes we've received, the applications we've received, a lot of interviewing going on. We now need to have that budget finalized so that we can do that. But entirely because of that, we had a carryover that we weren't able to use last year. The second attachment, unless there are any questions on that. And you'll also see that on the non-personal services side. We had to move money over from personal services to cover the shortfall for fixed expenses, lease escalations. Some of these contracts we're entering into, have to enter into, making changes in things that we're doing are just going to cost us money. Some of the software improvements we're looking to do, others are costing money. For next year, Mariana, Director of Administration, has put together our cash plan for the coming year that we shared with DOB. They have that, that's in front of them, and the discussions that are taking place to finalize the state budget.
Yes.
Yes.
And you will see, based on our projections, filling out our remaining staff positions, we want to get up to a total headcount of 68, as approved by the legislature past several years. So it's not aspirational, but again, we need the money. Keep saying that. I hope somebody's listening. But word is out. They have this, and you'll see every penny that we've asked for is accounted for in the budget. If we don't get it, we're going to have to revisit how we're going to move forward. Will affect us on the personal services side. Will affect some of our growth plans. We need physically more space in all to house the additional staff we have. We have planned. We have physical plans that we need to upgrade some of the data systems that we're using. I know Melinda is very eager to have an upgrade. Our financial disclosure system, our new case management system, investigations unit is moving along. We'd like to automate some of the other functions, advice and guidance, create some facilities so that we can receive web applications and track things on the web. But this is where we are, and we're asking for just a little over a little under 9 million. Hopefully we will get it. It's again $844,300 more than the current budget.
Oh, I think, did you say 44,000? Here's the difference.
840.
844. But don't forget the 300.
844.
Yeah.
And that includes the staffing plan, your plan?
That's the entire staffing plan. It includes acquiring more space. Ideally, in this building, we can. We need a dedicated space, for example, for the training unit and for some of the other units that just need to be able to spread out and have places for people to sit. I should mention, we've been working with OGS. Before we can acquire more space, we have to utilize every inch that we have currently. To get OGS's endorsement. And we have gone through many iterations, and we're now implementing the ultimate plan. So every inch, every chair, every possible cubicle, every office is going to be occupied.
Is there additional space in this building?
There is some vacant space. There's some vacant space. And we're not talking about a lot, but we need room for people. So, any questions? The per diem that was paid to commissioners on April 9th was circulated and are now posted on the website. It's called the per diem resolution. So that has been put there publicly, and that those payments cover the January 15th Education Committee meeting, the January 22nd Commission meeting, and preparation hours of commissioners, various commissioners for October. as well as January for all commissioners. So those have been paid out for the year to date, fiscal year to date total. So that's through the end of March. We're started a new fiscal year on April 1st. A little over $227,000, $227,111.75 is the total in per diem payments that were paid in fiscal 24-25.
As opposed to a budgeted amount of.
It's in the range of the budgeted amount. Yes. Yes. Was that 250 that we had in there, Mariana?
Yes, it's around 254.
Yeah, so we're within the budget.
That's it.
I noticed it's not in the board book this time. Is there a reason why it's not in the board?
It was not in the board book because we didn't have the confirmation of payment at the time the board book went out, and that's why
Oh, I see.
I circulated it separately
I see.
after the book went out for that. That's the only reason, and we did post it. Recruiting update. Unless there are any questions about last year's budget, this year's budget. As I said, we're moving forward recruiting for all the remaining vacancies. In the commission, we have positions posted for administrative assistants, for investigator positions in New York, for administrative assistants in the investigation and enforcement division, for assistant filing specialist and examiner in the financial disclosure unit, for another training assistant in the education unit, as well as assistant filing specialists in the lobbying division, and as I mentioned, a compliance auditor. We have, since the last meeting, brought on board 2 new members of our team. And in the training unit, we have Megan Smith, training assistant, who is joining us here in Albany.
Welcome.
Yes.
Very welcome addition to the team. You've heard over the past number of months how much administrative work has been borne by other members of the team in keeping it afloat. And now we have a really terrific person who's joined the team and has already, I have told, made a huge difference in the workflow of the unit.
That's the education unit.
That's in the education unit, in the specifically in the training unit.
Finally.
Already doing a great job with much more big things expected. And then in the lobbying division, Bridget Hubbard has joined as an assistant filing specialist, and likewise going to make a big difference. I don't know, Carol, if you want to talk about the new work that's being done with source of funding.
Sure. So what's nice about, so we did get a new assistant filing specialist that's coming in, and she'll obviously have to be trained and all that. But what's nice about that is that will help backfill, because we have Stacy Thiessen, who's been here a long time, very experienced person, who's now really going to be able to fully transition into her role, which will still be part-time, but she's going to focus on source of funding review and really kind of dive more deeply into that, making sure that the source of funding disclosures are accurate. And so she'll divide her time between reviewing registrations, which she's been doing for years, but she'll be able to spend at least half of her time now on source of funding review, which we've really never had the staff to fully focus on. We focused on it, but now we're going to have, with additional staff coming in to backfill and handle the other filings, we're going to be able to focus more diligently on source of funding, which is important. So we're happy about that.
Thank you. So welcome, Bridget and Megan. Glad to have them here.
Switch with
So,
Bridget.
yeah.
So Bridget and.
Bridget is not
Is
here.
it-
Oh,
oh, that's what
I'm
I'm
busy looking at her.
She's in New York.
She's probably working on a hybrid schedule.
Another Megan.
He's trading.
Is that a requirement? This board, this, oh, that, and I don't know any others.
I have a question. I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner.
The vacancy, the vacancy, the openings that you mentioned, are any of them as a result of losses that we realized this last year? I mean, has it been-
The answer is no,
These are all
those positions,
expansions.
these are additional positions that we're filling. And that we need to fill. But in terms of the vacancies we've experienced, all of those positions have been filled.
So we're not losing staff.
We are not. You know, we've had some transitions, but we've filled those positions since that time. Next item I have, unless there are any further questions of legislation. Okay, that's under tab C. So the legislative agenda is included. Thank you. We've included drafts of the bills that have been presented in the Assembly and in the Senate. I should add that we've had meetings both with respect to the legislative agenda and with respect to our budget request with a number of members of the legislature, including Senator Mayer, who's the chair of the Ethics and Internal Governance Committee, Senator Bufus, who's the chair of Investigations and Government Operations in the Senate, with Assembly Member McMahon, who's the chair of the Ethics and Guidance Committee in the Assembly. We're set to meet with Assembly Member James McDonald, who's the chair of Government Operations. I think that meeting is next week.
Yes.
And we met with Senator Kruger, who's chair of the Finance Committee. We've also, on the budgetary side, had further meetings with the Division of Budget and with the Chamber to talk about our budget. Emily, anything to add on the legislative side of things?
Just that, our outreach is resulting in increased, inquiries from the legislative offices, which is great, and interest in our proposed legislation. I had a long call with Senator Mayer's office a couple weeks ago, but a lot of questions about all of our proposals. So there's definitely increased interest in what we're doing and what we're proposing, which is great.
Does anybody have any further questions or comments? Commissioner James?
Is that across the board, or is that with respect to the couple of?
So right now we have 7 out of 9 proposals introduced, so that's up from last year.
That's good.
So it's kind of across the board. Different members have questions about different proposals. Senator's Mayor's office got very involved in all of them. A lot of questions about all of them. So it's pretty much important.
So the two that haven't gotten any traction,
I wouldn't say they haven't gotten traction.
or that there's no bills
Yeah,
introduced,
it's number
which is
4, which is
yeah.
express individual liability of responsible parties, and 8, which is adding penalties for certain
just-
violations. But I definitely gotten questions, especially on 8.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so.
Interesting. Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you. We move along to item 4 on the agenda, Chair's report and committee reports. In the past month, I don't believe there have been any committees who have met. I know the legislative committee had been chomping at the bit, which will lead into my next comment. That is that our friend and colleague, Commissioner Michael Cardozo, has resigned effective a week ago Friday. That his position needs to be filled, although the shoes that will be filled will be far too large for any of us to fill. So it's a sad time for us. He texted me after he sent it out and asked me whether or not I had received his letter of resignation, which I did not respond to immediately, which is typical of Commissioner Cardozo. and me, unfortunately. But I sent him a response to his question as to whether or not I had received it. And I responded, I did. I shared it with the commissioners. Your resignation is a gut punch, which has saddened all of us. Your wisdom, vast experience, knowledge, and legal acumen will truly be missed. That said, your sole focus should be upon being able to communicate, get together with us and be a part of us as a family, even though you have decided to move on. We will be in touch. I will be in touch with him next week after this meeting to check in on him, and I will keep the commissioners advised as to his status. Emily was kind enough and fast enough, as usual, to issue a statement from the executive director and myself as chair with regard to Commissioner Cardozo's resignation. That will be released today with the approval of the commission. And I believe that that really sums up our feelings quite well. And he is a mentor and a friend, and he truly will be missed by all of us. Sometimes you have addition by subtraction. This is subtraction by subtraction, and it's painful, but we will move forward. So if anybody has any comments or thoughts they'd like to share. Okay, seeing none. Item 5 on the agenda is the election of chair and vice chair. With the consent of the commission, we're going to move that to the end of the meeting. And we now move to item 6, amended delegation of authority to the executive director pursuant to executive law, section 94(6)B. That is attachment D. As those of you who are the original members of the commission back in September of 22, it seems like forever ago, we did in fact agree to and adopt a delegation of authority resolution. There is now a need for an expansion of that to some extent. I've asked, we have that resolution in Exhibit D, but I've asked Sandy to report to us what the differences are between that resolution of almost 3 years ago and the resolution that's now before us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The occasion for revising the delegation, there's 2 additional items that we believe could be added to the delegation. One involves a matter that's also on the agenda today's meeting, and was on the agenda for the last meeting, and that's giving staff authority in the first instance to address requests under the statute under section 94, 8 sub A and B of the executive law to address applications or requests, whether from agencies or individuals, for waivers or extensions of time to comply with the workforce ethics training requirements. There's no comparable provision for the lobbying requirement. In looking back at the original delegation, that authority was not covered. And it makes sense from the regulatory perspective, the administrative perspective, for the executive director and staff to have the ability to address those requests. With the opportunity for individuals, if they're not happy with the response, to take that up with the full commission. But in the first instance, we'd like authority for that. Second, we had no provision for adding additional qualified individuals to our list of hearing officers / independent arbitrators who hear enforcement matters and some other things under Part 941 of our regulations. We do have an existing panel that this commission has carried over from the prior commission of very qualified individuals. But with the backlog of matters that will be approached that are ready for hearing and others that will soon be ready for hearing, We want to make sure that we have a good panel from which selections are made. Those are blind selections. They're made by an outside entity so that they're random selections. But we would like to add individuals to that. We have been recruiting and we've got a number of applications in. And we think it makes sense for staff, for the executive director to have the authority to bring individuals onto the panel, subject to criteria, guidelines set by the commission. And so that's the occasion for adding to it. And we do think it makes sense now to update the delegation as well.
Commissioner Carabello?
I'm just, are these different?
Yes.
Are they?
Slight differences.
Oh, okay. They're not marked though, right?
No.
No, it's not red light, but Commissioner Ayers had some suggestions for the document. Made some of those changes.
Commissioner,
The materials that were distributed included the delegation to maintain a list of independent arbitrators, but it's not in one that was just distributed.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, okay, maybe the wrong draft then. But sure, I'll recirculate it after the meeting.
so that would be an amendment to it.
I say, so my substantive concern about this was I think it would be much preferable if we could avoid having two resolutions on delegation that both have some level of legal effect. In other words, that the new resolution that we pass say, we affirm all the delegations we made in the past. Going forward, this resolution is now the operative delegation, and the old one no longer has any effect from the date of the new one. I'm not sure that this resolution does that. Maybe it does. I'm not sure just looking at it, because it seems that there's this list in the whereas clauses that's a sort of rewording of the old delegations. And I feel like that leaves me unclear as to, because they're in the whereas section, that makes me think it's not operative, but the difference in language makes me unsure whether the old resolution retains some interpretive value, if that makes, in other words, as a member of the public, I think I would still feel compelled to check both resolutions, and I don't want the public to have to read two resolutions to figure out, in September 2025, what is the operative delegation power. But maybe I'm just not seeing what's there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the intention. We can make it more explicit. We can simply add a provision if that works. That will say that this resolution prospectively replaces the prior resolution.
Would it make sense to also move all of the enumerated delegations into the effective portion of the resolution rather than the whereas section, so that people are clear that now here's the list, it's one list, it's all you have to look at? I saw a couple people nodding, but I'm not sure if that's a
I mean,
consensus.
I understand. I mean, the list will be the same in any event. The list is not going to change. So maybe we can just reaffirm that that's the list with the addition of the two additional provisions.
I disagree. I think it would be easier for us to say that the resolution that was passed back in September 12, 2022 is hereby rescinded and replaced by.
It's amended.
Well, it's not exactly rescinded because it has to retain its effect between 2022 and 2025. So
Correct.
it has to be affirmed as to that period, and then it's terminated, it's ended and replaced.
Superseded.
Superseded, thank you. Keith. Yes.
Superseded English.
Commissioner Groenewegen and then Commissioner Carabello.
I support what both the chair and vice chair said, that I think overall, the overarching goal of this resolution, it has to be clarity as to what has been delegated and to avoid there being any questions. With that said, if we're going back to revisit this a bit, I think and we're now adding new powers to be delegated. I think we should look at the current section 23 that was this catch-all that said all other powers and duties set forth in the executive law and the legislative law, which do not require a majority vote of the commission. I think that catch-all has always made me uncomfortable because the whole point of this resolution was to have specificity as to what's been delegated. And the fact that we now have need to add 2 new powers, I think suggests that perhaps that comes out.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's assumed that if something else comes up, we would delegate it as necessary. But to have it in there as a standing delegated power, I think is trouble.
Doesn't define authority.
Because of the lack of specificity. So,
Commissioner Caravella?
Yeah, I guess I was kind of talking along the lines of what Commissioner Brownwagon was saying. I don't know that this is necessary, given that provision, and if it's necessary, then that provision would be unnecessary.
Right.
Also, number 15, after this delegation, a resolution was entered into, we altered that, so that should reflect except as provided in resolution 2402, whatever the number is.
Which number paragraph is that?
15. I'm uncomfortable also with the whereas clause. Ava raised that in her memo, like, why wouldn't it be just generally to the office rather than the individual? I think it should be the office of the executive director that has these powers. And I don't, the second whereas on page 4, I don't like how, I think that's a little too general, you know, what matters are we, like, I think if, like you said, if we're doing a specific delegation, I don't think we should also put in a phrase like just respect to those matters between meetings of the commission that may and should be delegated. I don't know what those matters
Sorry,
might
what-
be. In the whereas clause, it says, and the authority to act in the name of the commission with, I don't know if that was there already. You see, yeah. I don't know if that provision was in the original. I did mean to compare them, but I didn't have an opportunity to. And my last comment is, under the resolutions, I'd like to know why the first resolved on page 5 is necessary. Yeah, so those are my comments.
Could you just repeat the last?
Under the first resolution on page 5, I'm sorry, yeah. I wonder why that's necessary to go, back to reiterating that you have this authority uninterrupted. I don't know what that's intended to address, and I wondered if there was anything specific, or is it just something that you generally put into a document like this?
It's the new pro-tunc effect, right?
Yeah.
What this acknowledges, what that particular resolve clause acknowledges is that
He's had,
he's no longer been the interim executive director for quite some time.
right,
And so and yet he's been acting with authority that was delegated to him while he was interim. But since he hasn't been interim ED in about 2 years, all of the authority that he exercised as if he were interim, this resolve clause says that's okay. So we're now delegating authority to him as the permanent.
so when this was, when this first resolution, I didn't realize that, okay.
Yeah, it was only for his interim
I got it.
tenure.
Okay, so now I know why that's
Yeah,
necessary,
so
thank
we
you.
just need to go retroactive.
Would there be a problem if we, rather than name Sandy per se, that we just say the executive director?
And that's been done in the loose
Oh,
handout that was
Okay.
distributed.
It's still there.
Well,
Yeah,
The second whereas on the first page.
it must be the.
And
It may be the
the,
wrong, I'll circulate another.
The first result says continues its delegation to Sanford and Berlin.
They probably should
and
give
again in the resolved
the
on
appropriate
page
version
4,
to what we discussed.
first resolve.
all right.
Could we get the
We may have
printout?
conflict
No,
in,
Could we get the printout before we can? The real one, the
Before we
corrected
leave.
one.
Yeah, I'll circulate that when we take a break.
And
I'll,
But I don't want to rule on it until I see it.
Yeah, nobody has that. We're not going to vote on it.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
we'll come back.
all right, so we'll hold off on it. But just to be clear, we're talking about removing the name of the executive director and making it more generic than any executive director. And we have paragraph 50, it should be set up as all of this as a resolution rather than a whereas.
On 23, we.
And then paragraph 23,
Do we need that?
I mean, I guess I'm comfortable with deleting paragraph 23 if staff, but I'd be interested in hearing staff's view on whether there's an issue with that. Is that a concern for staff? That's all fair. Because I see the reason to delete it, but I just wouldn't want to decide that.
Yeah, it's potentially a concern because the entire point of the delegation is to enable staff to act if necessary between meetings of the commission on matters that don't require a commission vote. But otherwise, could not take place unless the commission can convene. It's literally the only way that day-to-day activities of the commission can be conducted with the authority of the commission. And so the catch-all is there for the sole purpose of something arises that needs to be addressed. That could be delegated to staff, that staff can do it. So, one example would be instances in which we, for example, have a litigation. We could have discussions about it, but the commission can't vote on whether to take a particular position on an issue, file a motion, whatever it may be, authorize the attorney general to act in the name of the commission. And so it would be fine if everybody said, yeah, you go ahead and do it. This expresses our will, but you haven't voted to do it, and I wouldn't have the authority absent a catch-all like that. I mean, that's one instance I can think of where there might be an urgent, and where that kind of situation has occurred.
And so that was going to be my other question. So in your view, this is a provision that you've relied on to take action?
I have, particularly in the litigation context, and not without informing commissioners, obviously.
Yeah.
They wouldn't undertake to do that, but nonetheless, I don't have a formal grant of authority to. It may be implicit, but then we have a statute that says you can only delegate if you have a resolution of this kind.
and I'm sorry, and the other thing that we need to include, Keith, is the supersede language. All right, I'm sorry, Commissioner Carroll.
And I just wonder, 21 should be similarly modified as 15. Authority to render decisions regarding exemptions. Are those, I think those also are subject to our subsequent resolution,
What number?
Did we
21.
maybe a resolution on it?
No, I meant the resolution about, when it's certain persons that we would have a yay or nay on.
I thought that was just for guidance requests. I didn't.
I thought, and that's my question, does that fall under here too? Because I think we get those as well.
Well, 21 is just with regard to application for exemption on a 2-year bar. I
Right.
don't think that has to do anything.
Oh,
with,
it doesn't, I thought, I
with
remember
the
seeing those.
advisory opinion.
They just let us know.
Oh, but I thought we voted on
There's
them.
catch-all language
I
in
think we voted.
2302, so if it involved, we don't get those applications. We only deal with those from a reverse bar perspective. But in terms of a straight out 73(8)(b), not typically,
I
but
see,
it would be within, take a closer look at it, but it's arguably within the catch-all language of 2302.
Thank you.
Yeah, Kelly, for what it's worth, I'm looking at our resolution, and I agree that the resolution 2302 deals with guidance under Executive Law 94-7C. And that's not the procedure that we use for
Just-
two-year
just-
bar exemptions.
I gotta look at it, but I don't have it in front of me, so.
All right, unless there's an objection, I'm going to put this off on the calendar until later when we see a new draft.
Okay.
Or is there a motion, or would you prefer to table it until the next meetings when we can fully?
I don't
Yeah,
think,
I'm seeing.
We're not gonna
from-
do this over lunch.
Yeah.
Okay, then a motion to table.
So moved.
Commissioner Caraballo, seconded by Commissioner, Vice Chair Ayers. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Okay, so this will get put over to our next meeting. May 14th, I believe. Okay,
But you'll circulate it well
be
in
circulated.
advance of that meeting,
Right.
though? Thank you.
and even though it will be in the book also, if we can
Yes.
see a copy much earlier than that, that would be helpful. Thank you. All right, we're up to item 9, proposed commission meeting policies and procedures.
Is it, so,
Or did I miss one? I'm sorry, 7. Proposed opinion, advisory opinion on the interplay between Public Officers Law 73(8)B and 73(4)A. That's tab E in the books.
And just by way of introduction, and Michael Sand, Director of Ethics, will take this. At the last commission meeting, the question was presented, the commissioners asked that instead prepare a proposed advisory opinion resolving the question of how to harmonize, if that can be done, the requirements of Public Officers Law, Section 73(4)A, which applies to current employees and officers of the state, with the special provision in POL 73(8)B, where agencies are making requests to contract with a former employee to provide defined services within certain parameters. And that is the advisory opinion that appears under tab E. And Michael can respond to any questions and provide a general explanation of how he has carried out that request.
And if I may, this is also relates to tab R,
In the back.
which is in our executive side of the book, executive session side of the book, without the deletions.
Right.
Michael, anything to add?
Well, I think Sandy described the background pretty well. And this opinion comes down on the side that Public Officers Law 73 subsection 8-B satisfies and trumps 73 subsection 4A when an agency gets permission to contract with one of its former employees, and it turns out that employee is currently employed with another agency. So we decided, so in this proposed advisory opinion, it would decide that that this employee could continue to proceed with their contract with her former agency.
Please.
So, Michael, thank you for the opinion. I thought it was very persuasive. I think it's a good example of reducing unnecessary paperwork because the certification already says that the services are not available at comparable cost anywhere else. So a competitive bidding process seems like a complete waste of time. So I would move the adoption of the advisory opinion if that's in order.
Is there a second? Commissioner James. All right. If I may, I just had a couple of minor points. On page 2, Michael, rather than using the word trumps, I thought the word supersedes might be a more appropriate word in the antepenultimate line of the carryover paragraph.
All right. And
It appears
Uh,
twice.
Right. And in the last,
I'm sorry, Michael.
no, I was just going to say, Commissioner Ayers sent a couple of proposed edits, and I agreed with both of those too. We can go forward with those as well, Commissioner.
Yeah, I sent them around, but yeah, they were very minor. Thank you.
And if I may, did you deal with this one? And the conclusion, I would suggest that we add, just so for the sake of clarity, in the very last line where it says employee, I would add with the acquiescence of the current state employer, so that it's clear that that it's not being done without the approval of the second state employer.
Got it.
Can I raise,
Commissioner
I don't know if this
Runway.
is a point of order or what, but whatever it is, I just have a concern, and I'm not trying to slow things down by any means, but I think we've fallen into this habit of orally making amendments to documents we are approving. This is our final vote on an official document of this body that has multiple iterations. Sometimes the revisions are minor, but sometimes they're not. And we make a decision to approve it without seeing what it is we're actually approving, from the minor revisions the vice chair made to the proposal the chair's currently making. And I just think that's, it's not an ideal process on those matters where we're voting as a body. So I know we just said we wouldn't try to, and appropriately decided we weren't going to try to rework the delegation of authority resolution over lunch. But if it's possible to get the changes, corrections, additions, whatever we want to call them, to this proposed advisory opinion before we take the final vote, I think that would be a far preferable practice.
We can certainly do that.
yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So you're just
Thank
saying
you.
being consistent moving forward, anything that we revise should
And
not be
Michael will have
voted on.
that, you'll send it over as soon as you can.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then we'll hold off on the vote on that. Moving right along, we are
We're
now
holding
up
until our
to,
next meeting, right?
no.
Holding until
These
next meeting.
these are just small,
Yeah, my point was, I think on this one, as I said, I'm not trying to delay things, but I want certainty as to what we're voting on. And I think
Point is
these
well taken.
changes are minor enough that if Michael can do that promptly and we have it before we leave, I don't see a reason not to vote.
right? It's different than the other one, which has major substantive changes. Thank you, Michael. All right, we're up to, now we're up to
Can we take the small
head
break?
note 8, notice of emergency and proposed rulemaking to adopt a new 19 NYCRR Part 939, and that is tab F.
Sure, I believe we have a request for a break.
We do. Okay. Let's take a 10-minute break and we'll come back to item 8 at 11:30.
So, Jean, can you just let us know when we're clear, please?
I commend the chair's general.
Thank you, everyone. We will be off in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live.
All right, we are back. And we are up to, excuse me. We are up to item 8, the notice of emergency and proposed rulemaking. Oh, that's the one we just did.
No, that's
No,
all.
that's what
we
we
started.
Okay, and that's attachment F.
Yeah.
Okay,
And by way of background again, originally staff proposed that by resolution, the commission establish criteria for staff to apply in addressing requests from individuals or agencies for modifications, extensions, waivers, et cetera, of the training requirement under section 94, 8, A and B. And it was proposed that this be accomplished by resolution, rather than by resolution, it be accomplished by a rulemaking analogous to some of the other provisions dealing with guidance. By no means a universal approach by the commission. Carrying out some of those responsibilities. And so staff proposed regulation governing those applications, those requests for handling them as they come in. We have mentioned before, we have several pending. And we're suggesting that if acceptable to the commission, that it be implemented on an emergency basis so that we can decide. So staff can go ahead and address the 3 or 4 pending requests that we have. Again, be deferred until formal rulemaking can be achieved, and those agencies can begin, if there is going to be any kind of rulemaking or not, they can know whether they're going to have accommodations made that they're seeking or not, to bring themselves and their staff, their employees into compliance with the training requirement. So we'd like to get that done sooner rather than later. I think it's important for agency planning purposes, for the applicants.
Does anybody have any questions or comments with regard to the resolution? Commissioner Bromley.
I have a couple, and I have a couple, just a minor wording. I have 2 substantive questions. The first I have is that the draft defines a state entity to mean the state legislature. And I'm curious as to why we had to define that term, since the statute 94, to the extent it covers the legislature, refers to the legislature. So it seems to me unnecessary to create a term for this regulation to define, which is somewhat of a curious definition, when I think we can eliminate it altogether.
We do have to reference the legislature. We don't, but I agree, we don't need to sort of redefine it. So
Right.
we can simply replace
Wherever we had to say
state
state
entity,
entity, we
we
can
can
just
replace it with the legislature.
legislature.
Yes.
Yes, so that was just one concern. Another I had was in the proposed 939-4. The heading of this section was standard of review, which I don't think we meant to use that term there because it's not really apt. It's more like we're saying the criteria for granting an extension of waiver. You know, that's what that section is describing. So I think that's a better term.
Criteria.
Criteria, that's right.
Sorry, where are you?
In 939-4, the top of the second page of the resolution.
Oh, that's the
3rd page.
Oh, it's third page. Okay, yep.
here. Oh, okay.
That was another thought I had.
Top of the 3rd page.
Yeah.
It says 939.4.
Then when we get to subsection or paragraph 4 of that section, where it says, in no instance will a request for a full or indefinite extension or waiver of the requirements be considered. And then it says, absent a showing that it would constitute extraordinary hardship. I found that so puzzling, and that the whole thing, you have to show extraordinary hardship to get the waiver in the first instance. So I didn't understand why that was being repeated. And I thought the essence of that section was going to be, in no circumstance will there ever be an indefinite extension or, and if we just stopped after, will that be considered, period? You're on notice that you'll never get an indefinite waiver. So I would recommend that the remainder of that section come out. And then I had just couple of stylistic things. Now I'm going back to the definition of ethics training requirements. I think it reads better if we say the ethics training requirements mean, and I'm okay using the word requirements again, means the requirements set forth in the executive law. And then it would continue to say that it's the requirement that, then you go all the way through, defined by public officers, section 73. It's the requirement that employees complete live in-person training. I just think it was a clunky sentence. And I'm happy to mark it up so that, I mean, I can read the whole thing right now if you want me to. You want me to do that?
Yes.
It was a
Okay.
style.
Because it's one of these things where we've right now we've got.
This is on the fly, like,
Yeah, it's
It-
gonna be the
on the
same
fly
thing.
wordsmithing.
Yeah.
I
I
don't,
don't do this in writing, by email, and then
Yes,
bring this
that's-
back.
I
'Cause
think that's.
well, and I'm all for that. I'm happy to ignore those things because that is stylistic, as I said.
Right.
Everything else I thought was
Well, if you
substantive.
have the wording, because.
I do have the
I'm
wording.
concerned, we haven't addressed the question of emergency adoption. I'm concerned that if we don't commence the rulemaking,
Right.
now we're going to be pushing
Well,
adoption until after.
that's why I just
Some-
asked
maybe
Keith
there
if he
anyway.
had a clean copy because I said I would be happy to mark it up, this clean copy, so that everybody can see what it is.
I put it into a Word and mark in mine, and I could just I guess I could try to get rid of them.
I just see the difference between content and wordsmithing.
Well,
And we don't want to get in wordsmithing, but we leave it to the discretion of the,
Well, I'm worried about, I mean,
Well, but just
Michael's
give it to
got the
him.
original, so Michael in New York
I think
City
Mike-
has to.
I agree, there's wordsmithing where it's just a change in terminology. There's also writing for clarity. And I think those are different things.
but are they proposals to staff? Or you're demanding, or you're,
Well, I'm
She's
trying,
making those good,
I'm trying
suggestion.
to figure out where, when we get materials for the first time, a few days before the meeting, how do we correct things that we think are unclear, if we believe they're unclear? Not for the purpose of writing the way we write, because we each write differently, but to promote clarity. Just like I would say the section on the regulatory impact statement, the statutory authority paragraph, I think is reversed. It starts talking about granting the waiver before you talk about the requirement. It's just very confusing for the reader.
I'm only suggesting that, I'm not disagreeing with you that it's important. I think that I'm just saying, I'm willing I'm willing to entertain it in terms of getting it approved with the understanding that the suggestions that you make that are not substantive be submitted to staff to incorporate.
I'm happy to do that.
I don't think we should we need to go through it.
I don't need
line by line. I'm just saying, just pass it on. I'm comfortable. If it doesn't change the substance, then I would work directly with
But I thought the goal was to get it adopted today.
And we could, with that understanding, that if it's not going to change the substance,
I don't
then I'm
think it does.
comfortable with adopting
Kavita?
today. If I could.
I saw Kavita's hand.
Yeah, so Michael, did you want to jump in?
I mean, I can send down a copy for Commissioner Grunwagen to work on if that's.
I'd be
amenable.
happy. Can you send it? It has to be in my, yes.
Okay.
Send it to my.
You got,
I'll send it down to
Yeah.
someone there who will print it out for you.
Yeah, we'll send it down to staff in Albany and then it
Yes.
can get printed out. A
Yes.
physical copy can get printed out.
We'll send it to me. We'll handle it.
Yep. Okay.
All right,
In Word.
pending that,
In Word, please.
are there any other comments or thoughts, Commissioner Carey?
Since this is gonna go over and we're gonna make some changes in executive session, I'd like to ask Keith a legal question.
Okay.
So
Sure.
if we could then hold it for executive session, that would be great.
And I just, I have a couple of changes I'd like to add as well. And I do have it on my computer. But I just want to say, we're looking to simplify our rules. Generally speaking, we're engaged in a project to do that. So I think as we write them up, we should make them as easily readable as possible instead of, like rushing to get something out. Because that'll, limit our comprehensive review of these new things or just eliminate them. So I agree with Nancy, even though they're stylistic changes, some of them were just grammatic.
All right,
So
that being the case, let's hold this in abeyance pending
this action,
the redraft or the document coming down and marking it up. And if there's a problem with getting that done properly today, we'll put it on the table.
Thank you.
All right. In the meantime, we did now receive back from Michael, and thank you for the speed in which you did this, our advisory opinion with regard to number 7 on the agenda. It is redlined so you can see where the changes were made that we discussed.
Let me see. What time is this?
Does anybody have any questions or difficulties with the amendments to the resolution? To the advisory opinion?
Got it, yeah, thank you.
I see. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve advisory opinion 25XX. So moved by Commissioner Groenewegen, seconded by Commissioner Edwards. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, it's unanimous. Thank you. Michael, again, thank you for getting that to us.
No, this still has a typo, it's okay. On the conclusion, but yes, that was,
We'll make sure
that's
we get
right.
it corrected.
And
Okay, number 9 on the calendar, the proposed commission meeting policies and procedures. Commissioner James?
Yeah, originally the administration committee was looking at policy and procedures and also with respect to whether we should use a lot of tools. And although at the last meeting, we said, Commissioner Gorman had sent around some suggestions and then we said we would consider them in the future. I think it would be better for us to send this back to the administration committee, to have them come forward with a recommendation for the full commission.
All right, so there is a motion to refer this resolution to the administration committee, and if I may add, and report, which will report back to us at the next meeting, the
Second,
May
yeah.
meeting. I have a second from Commissioner Caraballo. He was louder, sorry.
No problem.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. It's tabled to our next meeting with a referral to the administration committee in the meantime. Okay, we have a proposed commission schedule through the end of the year. It is attached as Exhibit H in your books. Does anybody have any comments or thoughts about the schedule? Commissioner Edwards?
I recommend that we not hold a meeting in the month of December.
I'm sorry, say again?
I recommend that we not hold a meeting in the month of December.
I'll second that. I think that's a.
Why would we do that?
Because it's in it's right after, between Thanksgiving and December. It's been impossible to schedule around holidays and getting out. And besides, it's freezing.
And besides, it's freezing. Well, last year, I'll remind you that we not only froze, but we froze in Albany.
Yeah, right. So my recommendation is that we just not, unless it's absolutely necessary that we not meet in January. in
May I
December.
suggest that we leave it the way it is? And we can always the commission can always decide at a later meeting not to meet in December.
I just want to mention too, in terms of the legislative agenda, getting that done, it's helpful to have a December meeting, just.
Oh, gee, you just wait till after this meeting.
Sorry. Just wanted to mention, that.
Gee,
Up to you, we can work around it if we need to, just wanted to mention.
Don't twist
All
Let
right.
me make the meeting earlier.
There is a motion to remove the December.
I'll withdraw.
I withdraw that to make my second.
I'll
Okay.
withdraw.
I didn't even recognize the second yet.
But I do have a question.
Sure.
That's Emily
I'd
first.
like to, September, I'm not able to do September 10th. So I'm wondering if we could do the 17th instead. And I also am trying to figure out when Thanksgiving is.
It is November 27.
7th? The next one, the next one. So I'd like to move the September 10th meeting to September 17th if possible.
September 25th.
September meeting. And when do you want to have the September meeting?
I propose the 17th, if that's probably not a Wednesday.
Yeah, I have a conflict, but I also have a concern that because we don't have an August meeting,
It's too late, it's late.
it's gonna
Yeah.
be too late to go from July 23rd too far into September.
But the problem is, I'm needing to meet the quorum though. How many people can we afford to miss?
Well, hopefully, we'll
One.
Just
currently, yeah, we're very
That's
tight.
her.
Hopefully by then we'll have more commissioners.
Would it be possible to do it on September 3rd so that we have a meeting, so that the August break isn't too
That's right
long?
after the holiday.
That's right after the holidays. Is that a?
And that's Labor Day.
Yeah,
Well, Labor Day is
Labor Day
Monday.
is September 1.
Oh, is that when school starts?
It's when school's
Would
actually
the
out.
would
They start
the
on
10th make
Thursday.
more sense?
Oh, they start on Thursdays.
Yeah.
Do we have to do it on Wednesday?
I think so.
I know I'm on sabbatical in the fall, so I was part of the reason for Wednesday, I believe, and that's not a concern for me this,
No, I think we
Are
always
you
have
out
it on
that week?
Wednesday.
not quite always.
You're
but-
gonna
Not
be
all-
on It's a nice-
Yeah.
Are you out
You're
the week?
on
No, we've
Yeah.
moved it, because
We've occasionally had non-Wednesdays, but that's been rare.
when I first started.
All right.
I mean, I could,
Is there,
potentially, I don't even know if I can.
From a staff perspective, would the 10th or the 3rd be better?
Wow, the 3rd.
Sounds like the 3rd.
Let's just keep it in this. Why don't we just keep it?
I'm
in
sorry,
this
I can't-
meeting?
Was somebody in New York speaking or?
I mean, staff will work with whatever works for commissioners. I think the 3rd is a little bit difficult because to get the book out the week before
Oh.
is August, so.
Right.
But again, staff will work with whatever works for commissioners, obviously. We just want to.
No, I know there's a lot of young children. And I know that would be a torture for them to have
It's all
to
the
do the holiday and then be ready. So you can keep the 10th and I'll do my best is all I can say. But I'm just giving you notice that.
Since there's no August meeting, I was going to say, would the 10th be better? Would
Which is-
Yeah.
that
We're
be
gonna
okay
stay
for the
with the
staff?
10th.
In
Or what
September.
about
Yeah,
Monday,
yeah,
of the-
September we
Sandy,
could
would
do.
Monday of the following week be too difficult?
Monday, the 15th?
I'd rather keep it at the 10th if we can.
Well, the problem is on the 15th,
We have a-
I wouldn't be here. I'd be in, but there's also the 22nd would be just before Rosh Hashanah.
Well, that's, yeah.
And that's very,
That's too
yeah,
late,
that's
though.
too late.
Right.
Okay,
I would think the 10th or the 17th.
I can't do the 17th.
well, we all have
Oh.
to be here because we only can afford one absence.
Then
And Dave is not gonna be, and
leave it at
Dolly's
the
not gonna
10th.
be here. Okay,
All right, then
Are you
leave it
okay
at the
with that,
10th.
Dolly?
Everybody agrees?
You okay with that?
I won't be here, but I'll be okay.
Mhm.
I'll be very sad.
Can I ask a
But
Sure.
It's not about this scheduling, but for Emily in the public hearing, I know in the past we've tried to do like a debrief meeting. It's a special meeting to discuss the input that we get at the hearing. I was just wondering, or other sort of special meetings around the public hearing. Is there a thought that we'll do that again?
It has to be public.
We
I
did.
thought this year though, we went to the committee, went to the legislative committee after the public hearing.
I
We
believe that's
did.
correct.
I think that's
We
right.
didn't have
No.
we didn't, I think 2 years ago, we had a special meeting of this.
We did.
Before, not
Right?
after.
No, after.
Oh, was
No,
that
it
right?
was
I know we
after.
did after. Okay. I
The
thought we
first
did
time we were
something
much
before
later.
too.
We had a much, we were
Well, I guess
in November for the hearing.
we did last time. That's right. We did send it to the legislative committee, but that then prompted my request at least to have a special meeting because we didn't have time to fully discuss everything as a group. I think it kind of turned out that I was the only commissioner who wanted to have that
But if
conversation.
we
So
have the
I could just go to the
legislative
legislative
committee
committee meeting.
meeting,
Yeah.
before the October meeting and then make sure we make time, maybe prioritize. Because
Yeah.
remember, we did have the full discussion on that meeting, full commission meeting, but then it got bumped off because the meeting went long.
Yeah, we had
So I
like 10
think
minutes.
maybe
Yeah.
if we prioritize that discussion, maybe before executive session to make sure that gets done, then we might not have to accommodate a special meeting. Would that work? So we have a legislative committee
Yeah.
meeting before the October meeting, and then at the October meeting before executive session, we have a discussion.
Yeah, I mean, that would be fine with me as long as, and I don't want to reopen any cans of worms, but as long as commissioners who aren't on the legislative committee are free to go there and participate in the staff
course. Yeah, of
conversation, then I
course.
think that's okay. But that's something we've had back and forth about for a while, so. My point is just, I think there needs to be an opportunity for all commissioners to discuss what we hear at the hearing. And I don't personally care whether it's in a committee or in the full session, but I know others do. So
We have the flexibility of being able to decide that we want to have a meeting after the legislative committee meets with the proposals and gets the staff comments as we've relied upon in the past. Once we see what that is and what the agendas look like in October, November, to see whether we need a special meeting or whether we have enough time at a regular meeting to do it, that'll be a decision to be made with the staff and the chair and I'm sure a polling of the commission to just be sure that it works and we have the time to do it one way or the other.
Right, so at the October meeting, we can decide that.
Would that
Commissioner Everly?
special meeting be subject to the open meetings law?
Yes.
Of course.
I'm not sure deciding that in October works if we're trying to get a legislative
we're trying to
agenda
get-
ready for January. I kind of don't think it does work. I
Me.
think
No,
it's-
no, we're saying we're meeting on the 10th. We have the legislative committee. We have this thing going on the 25th. We have then until October 22nd. From the 25th, that's a month. So the legislative committee can get staff's comments and have something either to meet and discuss by the 22nd or certainly by November. And that gives us the time because we did it basically in one meeting the last time.
No, we tried and it failed dramatically to do it in one meeting. I
think that's a decision to be made.
But I could talk to Steph about this. I don't need to continue taking up everybody's time with it. I'm happy to.
Maybe everyone.
Mr. Grove,
Already.
I thought you were.
It's not form.
We had a couple of new recommendations, but not many this year.
Okay, so so maybe it's not as extensive as the first and the second.
Okay.
And sorry,
Well done.
I'm sorry.
All I was going to offer was, I think the thing that helps all of us the most is after the public hearing, we hear a lot. I think if staff is the first group to organize it and give their initial reaction to what we've heard. I remember the first year we had the legislative committee, the first year we had a public hearing, there came up a time when we eventually received from staff what I thought was great staff work. It was a comprehensive chart of what was proposed. Yeah, but that before any committee starts
It's true.
meeting on it,
That we
get the benefit of
We didn't do that last time.
staff's thinking, organized in a format that everybody, not just members of the committee, sees what the staff thinking is. Which I think addresses Commissioner Ayer's point that at least everybody knows what's out there and what the staff is thinking. And then if the most efficient thing for our 7-member commission is to have a committee further look at it, so be it. But
So with that, because this year.
that,
Yeah, I mean, I think as a practical matter, staff is now at the point where we are able to gather the materials in advance of the hearing, and we can begin preparing the analytical material. Yeah, I mean, there's always possible somebody will show up without having submitted something and writing in advance, but the good government groups are very good about making advance submissions, and even individuals are pretty good about that. So we can pretty well anticipate the materials will be comprehensive. And I don't want to get ahead of where we are, but we do have a large body of matters that have been presented to us, some of which have become part of the legislative agenda, some of which are sort of proposals in waiting that we'll be analyzing. So I don't think it's going to be as famous last words, as strenuous, as complex a process this time, and getting all that information that Commissioner Groenewegen is suggesting in front of you relatively quickly.
Commissioner Carabao.
I'm okay, thank you.
I just want to point out, so we're going to have 3 weeks between the September meeting and the October meeting to have a legislative committee meeting. And what we typically do for that legislative committee meeting is prepare the document that Commissioner Groenewegen has mentioned, and that does go out to the full commission, as all committee materials do. Are you asking for something different than that, Commissioner Groenewegen, or just that same process that we did this year?
I'm just asking for the document.
Yeah, so we'll plan to do that. When it goes out to the full committee, it goes out to the full commission. We share all committee materials with the full commission now. And then you can decide if you want to attend the committee meeting or weigh in via email before the.
And I would suggest that perhaps the way to do it would be to have, rather than a legislative committee, which will be 3 of the 7 of us at the current rate, why don't we just create it and have it declare a committee of the whole and make it a legislative committee? But I think that's a decision to be made at the time as to how to best do that. And it's a question of whether 3 get invited or 4 or 7 get invited.
And then based on that, right, and based on that meeting, then.
Do we want, I think Commissioner Ayer's point was, do we want to hold a date if we're going to do that?
Yeah,
Like, just so everyone holds it? Is that where we're at now?
I think that's a good
Okay,
idea.
so maybe we should look to our calendars now. Okay.
Yeah, I think if we wait till September, everybody's calendar will be full and we won't be able to.
That's a good
Probably
idea.
October.
So that'll be October. I don't have all the holidays on my calendar, this calendar in front of me for October.
I'll talk to you about that.
Okay, but if we target like October 7th-ish, because that would give a couple weeks after the meeting, a couple weeks before the commission meeting, like sometime that week, we'll get the week of October 6th, depending on when holidays are.
I have enough time for the staff to get.
Between
Put the
me and
materials
Stacy,
together.
please. I think-
Yeah.
We'll be able to do that.
Yeah, I think we'll be okay.
All right. The holiday of Sukkot is the 7th and the
Okay.
7th and the 8th.
So
that-
maybe the 6th or the 9th?
6th would be the
That
10th.
is your birthday.
Yeah, I can't
The
do
10th,
I can't do the 9th, yeah.
The 10th would be Friday.
Yeah, the 10th would be Friday. And we'd have to have people come in. So I might remember that. This is a coming meeting.
Yeah, that's.
Are folks okay with that? Does anyone have an issue with that? Let me put it that way.
I have
On
an
what,
issue
the
with
6th?
that.
I'm not
so
available.
sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
What date?
Okay, you sure?
10/10.
What date?
The 10th,
October 10th.
October 10th.
October 10th.
On
Yeah,
a
that's-
Friday?
Yeah, that's not
New
gonna
York?
work.
Well, look to them. I suggested earlier this week.
Let me see something. I may be wrong on the Jewish calendar.
No.
Coming in on Fridays.
I say that, the 13th is the holiday, so.
I mean, we
I
can do it in
think,
the
I think the
morning.
holidays are in
Well, yeah, Columbus Day.
September and
Independence
October
Day.
2nd.
Well, that's Sukkot. That's another holiday.
Is that-
It's,
Oh,
Yom Kippur.
second.
It's what?
So
We can
how's
do it in
this,
the morning of the tenth, given that it's a holiday weekend, so if people want the afternoons free.
I can't do the 10th.
You can't.
Yeah.
why can't we do the 6th or the 7th?
It's,
The 7th is a Jewish
It's a
holiday.
Jewish holiday.
how about the 6th?
6th is fine.
Look at this.
Six, oh, six is fine.
We can't even
6 is fine.
schedule.
October 6th.
If everybody's good with October sixth, we'll pencil that in as a tentative meeting right now, so everybody's that, or not for you, but you said that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. We'll pencil that in as a special.
And we don't need a quorum for that because we're not going to take any action. This is an opportunity for folks to ask questions of the staff about their views on the proposals that we've heard. So
Well, I'll leave that to the.
At least
folks
that's
down
my-
there. I'll leave that to the folks down there to answer
Yeah,
that question.
let's be careful because we'll have a quorum.
Yeah.
oh, no, I mean, right. I just meant if commissioners can't make it, I don't think that.
Oh,
And if
then
they
we'll-
don't mind not being there, like Commissioner Groeneweg is saying, I don't think that poses the kind of problem it would if we were trying to schedule a full commission meeting of the usual kind. That was my only point.
Don't mind.
You
We'll,
probably,
we'll discuss that offline.
Okay.
Just make sure. Okay.
Sure.
Okay, and 10 a.m., does that work as the start time? We'll do it in the morning meeting.
Correct.
Thank you.
Well, let's look at the calendar. Last year, I think we had something on.
In December. We
And
did.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, do we want to switch
I mean, we
the
want-
November and December locations to accommodate doing that again? With staff.
You won't hear any objection from the Albany.
so say it again.
So switch the November and December locations.
So November would be in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That work?
Okay, so October 8th. Well done.
A little negotiating.
All right, just to confirm, we are going to tentatively meet as a legislative committee of the whole, perhaps, on the 6th of October at 10 a.m.
And either location, wherever we.
October 6th.
Right.
Yeah.
It's in- Yeah.
Okay.
Will we switching locations?
For November and December.
We're gonna swap those.
Yep.
So,
All right, so just to confirm, we now have Wednesday, July 23rd in New York, in the city. Wednesday, October 10 in Albany.
September.
I'm
September
sorry,
10.
September 10 in Albany. October 6th at 10 a.m. will be a committee meeting a legislative committee meeting in no particular place. Of course, it'll be announced and public. October 22 will be our next regular meeting, and that will be in New York City. November 19, we'll switch from Albany to New York City. And December 17, we'll switch to Albany. Okay?
Okay,
All in favor of adopting the calendar as amended?
so moved.
So moved and seconded.
All right,
Claudius moved, all seconded, and I'm.
okay. Commissioner Edwards moved, Vice Chair Ayers seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Okay.
Is there any other new business? Okay. I'll entertain a motion now to go into executive session pursuant to Public Officers Law, Section 105, and Executive Law, Section 94, Sub 11, to address matters concerning employment of personnel, pending litigation, and investigative and enforcement matters that are confidential pursuant to Section 94 of the Executive Law. Commissioner James moved and Vice Chair Aird second. All in favor? All opposed? The vote was unanimous.
You were live.
All right, welcome back to the public session. I'll call now upon our executive directors to give us a breakdown of what happened in the executive session.
Thank you, Chair Austin. In executive session, the commission discussed matters related to litigation. The commission discussed legal advice. The commission discussed personnel matters related to compensation. The commission authorized steps in several investigative matters. The commission voted to close 11 matters, 4 of which were carryover matters, 7 calling matters. The commission approved
Jacob.
Yes, Jacob. The commission approved 1 settlement, and the commission approved proposed terms for another settlement. And discussed several other investigative matters.
Thank you. There remain a couple of things on the agenda that we need to discuss. The first is item 6 on our public agenda. Amended delegation of authority to the executive director pursuant to Executive Law 94-6B. Do I have a motion on that?
I
Commissioner
move to
James,
table that to the next meeting.
Commissioner Caraballo,
second.
seconds. No discussion. Is there, can I have your votes, please? All in favor? Opposed? Matter is tabled. Thank you. Now, number 8 on the public agenda. Notice of emergency proposed rulemaking to adopt a new 19 NYCRR Part 939. Do I have a motion on that?
Move to table.
Vice Chair Ayers so moves, and Commissioner James seconds. All in favor? Opposed? Carries unanimously as well. Our last item of business is the election of new officers, Chair and Vice Chair of the Commission. For that, I call upon Commissioner James.
I nominate Commissioner Austin to serve as the chair.
I thank you. Is there a second?
Oh, yeah, for discussion.
Thank you. I've given it a lot of thought, and thank you all for thinking of it, but I'm going to decline the nomination for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is you'll make my wife very happy I'll make my wife very happy if I don't take it, but there are also some business and other issues that unfortunately have to take a bit of priority. I'll make my comments at the end of the meeting, so I respectfully decline. Are there any other nominations?
I nominate.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to take the prerogative as the chair of doing that. I nominate Commissioner James to be our next chair.
I second that.
Are there any other nominations? All in favor of Commissioner James?
I believe as a matter of procedure, we should make sure that Commissioner James is willing to accept the nomination.
No, Pat.
I mean,
Yes,
and we're going to need an affidavit from your wife.
Thank you.
Commissioner.
All right, all in favor of Commissioner James being our next chair?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Congratulations, Seymour.
Thank you very much.
We now
Thank you
need
to the
a,
commissioners, and before you continue, I'd just like to thank Commissioner Austin for serving as the chair after our former chair, Davey, resigned from the commission. I think he's done a fine job of filling in for him for the balance of that term, and we really appreciate you taking that responsibility.
I appreciate your kind words. To put it simply, it's been a pleasure and an honor to work with all of you. And I think we all agree that I'm sometimes frustrating to work with, as are most of you. I think that's what makes a good soup, that we all put in our best efforts and we cry a little, yell a little, laugh a lot, and get it done right. So it's been a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
I need a nomination for vice chair, soon to be Chair James.
I nominate Commissioner Ayers.
I'll second that.
And there's a second. Are there any other nominations? Commissioner Ayers, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
All right, all in favor, are there any other nominations? Seeing none, all in favor of Commissioner Ayers staying as our vice chair, being elected now as our vice chair for the next term? Aye. Opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you. I do actually have a question that doesn't need to be answered now, but for staff, I believe that I was in fact elected last time.
Yes.
So I just would be grateful for some clarification about what term I'm now being elected. Because I
2 years
haven't,
from
It's a new
March.
term.
2 years from
Two
March,
years.
March 1st.
from March 1st of this year.
Correct.
Okay, great.
So for you, there's no gap, and for,
Because last time I was elected to fill
Oh.
a gap.
and I was
That's
just
right.
interim for
So they're both
the
starting
month,
fresh in March.
during the hiatus before the election. All right, a couple of last words. This is an amazing group that's doing a tremendous amount of work with almost both hands tied behind our backs, with only 7 of us. I don't know if any legislative leaders are listening to us or watching. I'm going to tend to doubt it. But the bottom line is that our work and the results for the people of the state of New York can be enhanced dramatically by a more efficient, complete complement of members of this commission, all pointed in the same direction, whether they're Democrat or Republican, upstate or downstate. We have an obligation to make sure that the people of this state have a government that they can rely on for veracity, for honesty, and we have worked our tails off to accomplish that. Again, it's not always been an easy process, but it's been a common process. And I'm proud to have served next to each and every one of you, as well as those who left the commission early. I don't see how we can do any better with this small complement, working with the necessity of having not more than 1 dissenting vote in order to accomplish anything. And we've all swallowed hard sometimes, but we've given our votes to make sure that we get things done right. And so from my perspective, it's been an absolute pleasure and honor to work with you. I look forward to continuing on the commission with you, and I look for great things from soon-to-be Chair James and Vice Chair Ayers and each and every one of you. And for the staff, thank you for all your help and support. You've always been there with any question, any comment. You've kept a sense of humor, notwithstanding the difficult work that we do. And thank you all. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Could I, before we adjourn?
Sure.
I'm still thinking, what the hell? I'll be brief, but I just wanted to say personally how much I appreciated working with you as your vice chair. That I think that this position is a lot of work being the chair, and most of it's behind the scenes. Most of it's not something that people get to see. You stepped into that on short notice when there was a vacancy, and we badly needed somebody who could help us get through a period of time that was challenging for the agency. I think challenging for any agency, but definitely for a new agency, one that constantly has to be figuring out our own procedures and building our rules as we go. I deeply appreciated your commitment to making this time efficient, making the best use of it. I know sometimes people disagree about the best way to do that, but I think everybody here appreciates how hard you've worked to try to keep us on track, keep us moving quickly. I've also, and I think all of us have really appreciated you showing us by example that just because people disagree with you doesn't mean you have to take it personally. You've always been good-natured. People agree with you, disagree with you, but you're just Len. You're going to say what you have to say. People may agree or disagree, and we're going to go on with that. And I think that sets a great example for all of us that I hope that we'll all follow. And I also think that you've been a strong advocate for staff in ways that that I've appreciated very much, that I think all of us have benefited from, for respecting staff's expertise and their leadership and their role in this process. I think all of us are committed to following those principles. And also, I'll just say personally that, there's some people, I'm not a person who likes talking on the phone very much, but when I see that it's Len Austin calling, I'm never unhappy to pick up the phone. And from somebody who's, I think in the leading edge of the generation that hates and fears phones generally, that's actually very high praise. So I just wanted to say how much I appreciated working with you and how much I've enjoyed it.
Thank you.
And I would like to second those sentiments from staff's perspective. It's been a great pleasure working with you, Len, in all of your capacities on the commission. I've learned a tremendous amount. You've been a terrific mentor. You've also been willing to hear staff's perspective on issues and have been extremely supportive to us. And I look forward to continuing to work with you on the commission. And I hope that continues for a number of years. So thank you very much for all you've done.
Thank you all. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Commissioner Ayers, Vice Chair Ayers, Commissioner Kara, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned, and thank you all.